Watermark's Church Leadership Podcast, a conversation with church leaders for church leaders. I'm your host, John McGee. Thanks so much for joining us today. Hey friends, I'm joined in the studio today with our executive producers. That's a pretty weighty title you have there, friend.
That is a big title.
Ashley Lawrence. And so Ashley is every time we record one of these, she edits and posts up all of these episodes and is always behind the scene. We brought you on air
in January.
Yep. You remember your topic?
How to operate under leadership you don't respect.
And I guess you're probably still doing that here.
Not even a little bit.
You're still here. And we'll talk about our subject here in a second. But the thing I think we talked about last time was how you are a diehard Eagles fan.
Yes,
living behind enemy lines here in Dallas.
Absolutely.
How's that season going so far?
Terrible. So we're recording this after Monday Night Football where they played the Falcons. And if you watch the end of that game, they threw a deep ball on 3rd and 3 when all they needed was 4 yards to get a field goal.
Okay,
to be within field goal range.
Okay, what should they have run?
They should have run the ball with Saquon Barkley, get a first down, put Jake Elliott on the field and kick the field goal, walk off ceremoniously with a victory. And it was terrible because they didn't, and they threw a deep ball and got intercepted, and I turned the TV off and went to bed.
Well, yes. So it's not like she knows the name of a quarterback or a coach. She knows football.
Oh, I do.
And is a delight to work with. And and always, it's just actually what I love about you is just the way you're consistently like studying scripture, leadership, how churches work. And so it's really, really fun to work with you. And I think we've got a fun episode here lined up. I'm excited to hear some of your thoughts. So we received in our inbox, we always put out there every week, clp@watermark.org. You can always, give us an idea for an episode or, help us, ask us to help you with something, or if there's a resource we have that we mentioned and we forgot to link it up, that's feels like that's the bulk of what comes in. But if there's just any ways we can serve you, we always want to know. And so we got an email from Singapore. He said, "Hey, you guys have mentioned all these numbers, the 24-hour rule and the 48-hour rule. 24 hours really refers to conflict, and how we resolve conflict in 48 hours would be our response window. We really want it to be much faster than that, but if all else fails, we want to make sure that we've always responded back to people in 48 hours. So those are some phrases that we have. And he said, "Hey, what else do you have? What other phrases do you have?"
So many.
And you actually made a list of 40 phrases that we have. So we will not make this a 4-hour episode. We'll pick some of these and just kind of illustrate that. But I think the reason that was probably even a question is because we know, all leaders know, that words, they just have power. We said this before, that words and phrases work while you sleep. And so if you can craft a phrase, it's very, very pregnant with meaning, and you can say it and everyone immediately knows all the implications of that. And people can say it outside of your presence, and they can rally other people or correct people, or they can encourage people with this phrase. So they work while you sleep. Another one I love is that words create worlds. And so there really is tremendous power in words. It's something that leaders should pay attention to. I feel like it's a theme that's kind of come up a little bit this year. And really interesting as we think about here at Watermark, is we're transitioning from, kind of the first 25 years. We're about to celebrate our 25th anniversary, which is going to be so fun. And we need to think about who we're becoming in the future, which means some of the phrases that we've really leaned upon are going to fade away, and some new ones, some new rallying cries, some new values will pop up. So it's kind of a really interesting time to be us here in this organization. So wherever you are, I think words have power, and we're going to talk about just some of the things that we do. So any other thoughts as we get going?
Yeah, so I actually have to confess, I joined the staff about 3 years ago, and we get an owner's manual when you join staff, and it kind of has like our top 6 sayings, some of them we'll talk through today. And there were some that were said in staff prayer, and I would have to lean over to people and be like, what does that mean? What does
You needed
that mean?
A translator.
I was like, I don't know what any of these things mean. What does that mean? And they finally said one that was called Ride Along. And I had no idea what that was. We'll talk about that one later. But basically, you take someone with you to go and do a pastoral conversation or something like that. And my only context for Ride Along was the Kevin Hart and Ice Cube movie. And so in my brain, I'm like, are they going to put me in a cop car and take me somewhere?
Kidnap you? Yeah.
Yes. And so luckily over the years, I've gotten more used to these phrases, and the more that they're repeated, the more I've caught on. But yes, that one was funny. For a while, I was like, no, when they would ask me.
This is a Christian organization. So yeah. So right along, we can start there. It is, the idea is that you're always bringing others along with you. Mm-hmm. Like Paul had his Timothy, there was this constant sense as he did ministry, as he did whatever he did, he brought people with him. It's just very clear people traveled with him, and then he might send them out afterwards. And so, especially in the early days, if you wanted to commit a foul here, you went to a meeting, you went to a kind of offer counsel, you went to solve a problem, and you didn't take someone else with you, especially someone that was younger that could learn. Like literally, that would be worse than poor performance. Mm-hmm. You were supposed to take someone with you, and we're still reaping the benefits of that phrase. And mm-hmm. So what will happen here a lot of times is, hey, does anyone want to do? Someone will say, does anyone want to do a ride along? Or I've got a ride along opportunity, and people can kind of jump in on that. Mm-hmm. And so it's part of our cultures. It's probably one of those that we need to turn the dial back up, but it just pays dividends. My wife and I will lead a marriage conference here next weekend, and we'll take two couples from the residency program. We'll talk with them all the way down. They'll get to hopefully interact with the pastor that's there, and we'll debrief all the way back. Mm-hmm. And that, in some, not because Pam and I are anything special, but just that hands-on, I want to ask questions. I want to see it. We generally learn as we observe, as much as, generally more so than reading about it or watching a YouTube video. So mm-hmm. that is what the ride-along is. That would be one of the things I think we say a lot. But again, with that then, has a whole lot of connotations. And before we hit record, Ashley, we were talking about Chick-fil-A, mm-hmm. and they have this phrase like raving fans. What we want to do is create raving fans. And everybody knows that. And I think in many respects, they've done that. So a raving fan would be someone who obviously frequents, the place, buys a lot of chicken, tells their friends about it. And a raving fan will also defend you if someone says something disparaging about mm-hmm. you. So how do they do that then? If that's the goal, then they've got, processes. It's very meticulous when you're greeted at Chick-fil-A. There's a formula. If something comes off the rails, you'd have a bad experience. They have a process that they teach their employees that ends with it's somehow being a win for you and for the company, and they stay a raving fan. And mm-hmm. so every employee knows that's what they're after, and it just has power, and there's this incredible ability to rally people around one phrase. So, Ashley, what other phrases did you bring today? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so another one that we have on deck is called "Think Like an Owner," and this is one of the big ones that we put in our owner's manual that we give out to new staff. And basically, just what "Think Like an Owner" means is that you own this campus when you're on it. And so we say things like, if you see trash, you pick it up, or, be a there you are person, not a here I am kind of person. And so one of the fun things I get to do here at Watermark, getting to serve here at the porch, we have host versus guest mentality. And so when you think you're a guest, you're showing up to consume, you're showing up to receive something, or, be kind of welcomed at this place. And a host is going to make sure that things are set up properly, that, the campus looks nice, that you're welcomed when you get here and you feel loved when you leave. And so we do that through 4 ways. It's called ICPD, and it's initiate, connect, provide, and direct. And so you're going to initiate towards someone. You're going to connect them with other people so that they feel welcomed when they come back. You're going to provide for them, whether that means getting them connected, whether that means providing, they might come and they might need a Bible or something like that, and then direct and kind of direct them towards their next steps. And so thinking like an owner is basically, when you get here, like, you are making sure that when people come, that they see and know Jesus, and that they leave knowing that they're loved and that they're always welcome back.
Yeah, so good. And with that, that idea, we've all walked into a restaurant mm-hmm. where there's a kid from high school who doesn't want to be there, but his parents are making him have a job, and mm-hmm. he looks at his phone the whole time, and just you're a bit of a nuisance. In that same restaurant, you could have the owner there, mm-hmm. and he's incredibly attentive. He makes incredible recommendations. He makes sure everything about your experience is fantastic. Mm-hmm. And there's a difference. when someone thinks like an owner. And so that's a phrase that we use. It packs a punch, and we continue to have, and then we want to empower people so that they can actually feel like owners as well. They're not just executing, metaphorically, orders from on high, but they get to shape this place and this mission. And so think like an owner is a big one. We have lots of them actually around conflict resolution. So we had that 24-hour rule. That is where we expect that if there's an issue that if I had an issue with you or you had an issue with me, we would bring that up and seek resolution within 24 hours. So we're just not going to let things build up here. We're not going to go into conversations and say, for the last 3 months, I've been frustrated with you. That would be a foul. Being frustrated with someone, having a misunderstanding, conflict, not a foul. Not dealing with it is. And so we talk about this 24-hour rule where we just really seek, it doesn't even have to be completely resolved, but just to service it and say, I think there's an issue here, and I would love to make sure that we talk about that. Another one, we talk about, it's both, I might put this actually more with feedback, is the last 2%. And so a lot of times, as we have conversations, there's this, wide swath of things that are obvious, they're easy to say. And there's that last 2% that everyone sees, but no one wants to say. And so, it's not unique to us. Lots of organizations use that, but that might be something we say, hey, are you open to kind of the last 2%, or can I say the last 2% about this thing, or about the way I perceived you, or those kinds of things. And so what's coming. You can kind of believe the best, know that it's helpful. It's not an aimless critique. It's a hope to get better. And I think a lot of times we'll ask, hey, is there any last 2%? Is there anything else that you wanted to say? Especially, if someone is a little bit older or they're in a different position. Hey, is anything else? I just want to give you the freedom to say anything that you might want to say that you're not sure you have the freedom to say. You have freedom to say the last 2%. And then, we talk about widening the circle a lot. We talk a lot about circles. We talk about drawing the circle around yourself. That means getting the log out of your eye, Matthew 7 style first. And so people will say, I think I've drawn the circle around myself, or let me draw the circle around myself, and then I'll come back to you. And then widen the circle would be, if you can't get resolution there, then you bring other people in. Or if someone is really unrepentant or somehow belligerent, say, I think at this point what would be helpful is to widen the circle. And that's what we mean by those.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so this next one is preach, pray, or die. And this is a famous saying, if you've been around here before, with Blake Holmes. If you are sitting in our staff prayer circle, you better be ready to preach, pray, or die, which means that you should just be ready at a moment's notice to tell us what you are learning in God's word. And so preach, just tell us what you're learning, pray for those around you, and hopefully no one chooses die.
Let's don't choose that one. Yes. And so, the idea is that you're walking closely enough with God that we can always ask you, hey, could you just encourage us in some capacity, right? And so what that will do then is it creates an expectation that everybody has something that's new and fresh, because they are spending time in God's word, and they are learning, and that they're ready to go. So this week, I was hosting some pastors from Brazil, and we walked by, and one of our residents was there, and I just walked up to him, and I just said, hey, it's time to preach, pray, or die. Hey, why don't you come over here and interact with these pastors? And we asked him some questions, and he did phenomenal. He did fantastic, and they prayed for him for his future ministry. It was a really fantastic moment. But he was just minding his own business, getting ready, I think, for a test in the residency. And next thing you know, he was teaching, encouraging, and sharing with the Brazilian pastors through a translator. He didn't see it coming, but he was ready. So that's awesome. That's a great one. One we used to say, we've changed it now. What we used to say was speed of the leader, speed of the team. And by that we meant that there is in the congregation, in our teams, in our ministries, that those that we lead and serve with, they won't probably care more than us. They won't be more excellent than us. They're not going to be on the balls of their feet more than us. They won't be more prepared than us. And so repeatedly, there would be this mantra: speed of the leader, speed of the team. Let's go. And I remember one of our elders said that I understand the heart of that. And he was really passionate. He just picked this fight. He said, I just want to kill that phrase. And what I want us to say is faithfulness of the leader, faithfulness of the team. And so it's a bit of a foul now just to say speed. And because we don't want to have that connotation of, harder, jump higher, run faster, constantly. But faithfulness is the goal. And so faithfulness of the leader, faithfulness of the team. And so someone who stewards the opportunity well will tend to have those that he does that with that will see the same kind of gravity of the situation. Someone who continues to learn and be transformed and be faithful to yielding to the Spirit. They will have people around them, under them, that will do the same. So it's a great phrase. It's one we use a lot. It doesn't roll off the tongue as fast as and maybe as punchy as speed, but faithfulness of the leader, faithfulness of the team.
That one's good. So the next one that we have, and we've talked about it on the podcast a bunch, is called a Farkle. And so farkling is basically a way to celebrate the Biggest Loser. And I actually think you had a pretty good example of this that happened last weekend.
I've got a great one that's current. So Farkle is, I think it's actually it's a dice game, but you can do it with any game, and you're not trying to get to a winner, you're trying to get to a loser, and you need to know your audience. And so this may not translate. I can see some people trying to do this, and it would just be their last day wherever it is that they work. So, but we had a whole slew of the residents over last weekend and just cooked dinner, and we had a great time. And then I just kind of, as a game master, put together all these games, and I said we're gonna end with one loser. And I remember one of these guys goes, "Hey, I don't want to do this," and I said, "Totally fine. There's no way you're gonna lose."
You won't lose.
That's exactly who lost, And to be fair, I said, "Hey, it's okay if this is gonna cause emotional distress. Like, don't worry about it, man. Like, I'll we'll do something else." No, I felt like I gave him an out 4 times. He's like, "No, I'm in."
I'll do it.
So what they had to do, and contextualize this one. I don't want anyone. Don't send me a letter that you got fired, and don't blame me. It's on you. But these guys have all been here at this point like 40 days, so they are brand new. But they had to call TA, who's now kind of our lead visionary pastor, and tell them, and most of these guys are 23 years old, that they're ready to be an elder, that they've been here kind of 4 weeks, they feel qualified, they're ready, and they want to enter the process. And so we called, I got voicemail, called back again from my phone. And we said, you've got 1 minute. You have to talk for 1 minute uninterrupted. You're not trying for a dialogue. You're just giving your pitch, and then you're going to hang up immediately afterwards. And at the 1 minute mark. So when somebody's holding the phone, the timer, and so his name was Gabe. He crushed it. He just crushed this. And my favorite line was, he kind of gives the introduction and what he was calling about. And he looked over and he goes, and TA, I just wondered if he had like 45 seconds that we could talk about this. And I almost fell over. I was laughing so hard. But there was so much nervous energy in that room. These poor guys, they were 40 days in, basically making a prank call to the big boss, and I didn't realize until afterwards, like, that was probably pretty hard. But we've got this video of people with, some people that can't even look in the living room. One guy gets down like in the fetal position, and he's just like, I didn't even know what to do with all the nervous energy. And so when that was done, here, we don't do that just to be silly. Like, that was a really like that, and that was the last thing we did that night. And it was just a memorable. It was a core memory, for these guys. We made a memory. Now, awesome. Next time I have them over, I've actually got an idea to encourage them with the story of someone here on staff. That's not all we do, but there's some really funny moments, and what we do is so. It's just so blasted hard, and the stakes are so high, and we do need to be sobered about what we do. And then, but it's just kind of fun, just to let our hair down a little bit, make some memories, be silly, and it really is. It's an amazing way, I think we've learned to kind of bring people together, give them a shared memory that they'll be talking about for years to come.
All right, so the next one that we've got on our list is called Find the One. And this is a popular porch saying as well. And what I mean by this is not go and find your spouse. Do not go out making googly eyes at girls or boys or anything like that. Please don't do that.
Find your soulmate.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean
find
that.
the soulmate. No. So find the one means that you are going out and finding the person that is sitting alone, that maybe came on this campus and just doesn't have a connection. They're kind of looking around. They might be questioning why they're here. And you're just kind of giving them a person to connect with. And so that looks like sitting with them. It looks like connecting with them. In a couple of our ministries, we have something called the solo section where you can go and connect them with other people that came alone. And we just want to make sure kind of that owner mentality is that when people are here by themselves, that they are not leaving by themselves or feeling like they didn't make a connection when they came on our campus.
Yeah. And the porch is phenomenal with that. I will text your team on the porch all the time. And I'll just say, hey, this one person is coming. Can you have someone meet them? And there's a whole team that will just meet someone. They will be there. Here's my number. When you walk in, text me. I will find you. I will sit with you.
Yep.
And then people that walk around, even though all their friends are there, and it would be so fun to connect. They go, no, I'm not here solely to connect with my friends. I'm scanning and seeing who took a risk, walked in this big place all by themselves. And it's a great phrase. And I think the porch really leads the way here at Watermark. Really, really great.
Yep.
Another one we'll say, especially to those of us that are married, is how is your ministry? And your first reflex would be to say, well, it's good. Volunteers are up, or we had a great event. But what we're talking about is kind of this, 1 Timothy 3 qualification to be an elder is to lead your family well, to manage your household. And that is, especially to those of us that are married, that is our first ministry. Who you raise is more important than what you do. And if you know that really is, in many respects, it's kind of the resume that you push forward to have the opportunity to lead in a church, and it's the ongoing qualification. So if that one slips, in many respects, you're not qualified to lead. Doesn't mean that your kids have to be perfect, and they might spin off actually, but it's this intent as a mom or a dad to say, this is my primary ministry, and it really is. It's a table stakes to play the game. And so we'd say the same thing about relationships for those that are single. That has to be a priority. Those that are closest to us, how are we living out the one another's? That's a really good tell for how we're going to do in every other area. So it's a phrase we used to say a lot, and we're bringing that one back. Just how is your ministry? Which is to say, how are you doing at home, which is your primary ministry.
And if you're single, like me, we have these little blocks that we keep on our desks that says, how's your ministry? And you can put a picture in there of your family if you're married, your community group if you're single. And it's just a really good reminder every day just to look at that and be like, oh yeah, I'm caring for them first.
I look at it often, and when I'm about to, kick out encouraging emails and text and things like that, I go, well, if I haven't done that, in the last 48 hours to these people, then I need to start there. And it's been a great reminder for me. Another one we had, Ashley, that you wrote down was stay in the ring with me. And that is an invitation to kind of continue this conversation, or it's a plea. Hey, would you stay in the ring with me? So I'm trying to solve a problem. I'm trying to talk something out, and I need a thought partner. I say, hey, would you stay in the ring with me? Or it's just there's a little bit of tension, a little bit of friction, and it is to say, hey, this is going to be okay. Like we're this doesn't have to get testy. Hey, let's stay in the ring, and let's don't run away from this. Let's actually address it. And so it's been a powerful phrase for us. Hey, would you stay in the ring, or can you stay in the ring, or let's stay in the ring. It's safe, but we're not going to shy away from what needs to be said. That's something we say often.
Do you apply this one to feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. So you could say if they are two ways. One, someone gets defensive when you give them feedback. You say, it's okay. Hey, let's just stay in the ring on this one here. Or I'm not sure I see it yet. I could say, if you try to give me feedback, actually, and I don't see it, I say, hey, will you stay in the ring with me, as I want to make sure I understand this one. You might just say, I delivered that, and now I'm going to run. I was like, I need to understand that. Would you stay in the ring with me? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes. And if someone's asking you to stay in the ring with them, I think critics math plays a big role in this of when you give that feedback. And so examples of great ones are You have an event, you write down your feedback, and you're like, hey, I'm just going to encourage you on the front end of this. And then maybe in a couple of days, we'll sit down and kind of walk through all the feedback. But going up to someone right after something that they took a lot of time and energy to put into, and you go, hey, I just have a lot of feedback. If you could sit down for a minute, maybe not the time.
Not right after.
Maybe not the time.
I wish I'd only made that mistake one time.
Yeah.
And so, yes, when you go through, we talk a lot about feedback. I don't know that didn't make it, didn't make the cut, but while we're here, we talk about OFIs, opportunities for improvements. I think a lot of people talk about that.
Yeah.
We talk about the SWOT analysis. We always do keep, start, stop. And we're a high feedback culture. And so, generally, if there's an event, if there's a ministry going on, people just will open up, something on their phone and just take both things that were really, really good. Like we should continue to do that. Let's celebrate that. And then things that we should probably address next time. And that's all great. You just don't want to do it. People are really, really vulnerable, kind of raw, tired, emotionally wrung out after the thing, spent. And that's not the time. It was that goes in the win column. I say that a lot. Hey, if we're asking, was that a W or an L? That was a W. That goes in the win column. Way to go. We'll talk about some of the feedback later, but that is the downside of being a high feedback culture is that if you don't know the when, it can actually be detrimental. Our
next one is all hands on deck. And so this refers to events that we have on the calendar. This could be events like CLC, Easter, Christmas, etc., things like that. And this just means that all staff is required to help in some capacity. And so you could take 5 to 10 minutes and explain everything that they need to do and all the ways that they need to help. Or you could say this is an all hands on deck event, and our staff immediately knows what that means. It means that this is our event, that we're going to do it together, and that we're going to do it with excellence.
Yeah, that's good. We're going to treat it like it was like my idea. I'm going to come at it, even though it might not be. And that's a fantastic example, Ashley, about, and I love what you said. You don't have to give a 10-minute speech, rallying cry. It's all hands on deck. Now, everybody is crystal clear on what that means. That's great. One of the ones that we used to say a lot when we started the church was the most important 100 are the next 100. And what that meant was, as we were starting this church, that we weren't building this church for us. We weren't trying to have the church that we would be, would have all of our needs met, and that we were crafting this, utopian society for us. We were trying to be a church for this city. And so our preferences, as much as anything, what this phrase meant, it didn't matter. And so if we got, really fond of some kind of musical style, we said we would change it in a heartbeat if the next 100 would resonate more with something. When we went to we do the meet and greets. If you we have those in our church. It was, I guess you're going to see lots of your friends here, but the very first person you're going to greet is somebody that you do not know. It will probably be new. So the next 100, would they understand what that even means? Were we using language that they wouldn't understand? If they walked onto this campus, would they know where to go? Would they feel warmly greeted? Would they feel cared for? All those kinds of things. We ran it through that process, which didn't mean that we weren't going to care for our body and our members. There's always been it's one of the things I love about Watermark. There's always been the deep sense of responsibility for our body. But we were going to really make sure that if God in his kindness gave us people that were visitors, that were new, that were exploring the faith, that we were going to take fantastic care of them. We were going to treat them. They weren't the most important, but we were going to treat them as if they were. And it packed a punch, and it really helped us kind of rally around that idea. So, Ashley, I'm going to land the plane here in a second. Anything else you want to add?
Not that I can think of. I'm just so glad that ride along does not mean I'm getting in the back of a cop car.
Amen. But you can make it mean whatever you want to in your context. So, yeah. So, friends, I think you can use phrases. Most of these have kind of had a rallying effect or a communication of a sense of mission or conflict resolution. You can also use it for encouragement. We talked about our Knock Your Socks Off award. You can wrap a lot of ideas into one phrase for encouragement. And then I think the way these things have happened here, the way I've seen them with other people, is there can be a thoughtfulness. You can say on the front end, I want to drive this point home. I'm going to create a phrase. More oftentimes than not, though, people write about this, they don't talk about it, is that they were kind of giving this spiel on a thing, and they said one phrase, and they had a sense like that actually sticks, and that will be a sticky phrase that will encapsulate everything we're trying to talk about. And so when you get excited and you're talking about something or calling people to something, if there's a phrase that encapsulates everything you're trying to say, circle that one. And just let people know when we say this is what we mean. And I think it will work while you sleep. Words really do create worlds, and it's part of what a leader does. It's not the most important thing. It's not, but it's been something that's really, really helpful here. And I think a lot of this podcast is just talking about things that other Christian leadership podcast won't. Sometimes I just want to go verse by verse through the pastoral epistles. I just feel like that's out there in spades. And so one of the things we do is just talk about, as practitioners, some of the things that we're learning, some of the things that make this place great, so that you can contextualize it in your own ministry. So friends, whether you are in Singapore or you're just down the road from us here in Texas, if you have any ideas for future episodes or just ways really that we can help you, serve you, we would love to know. That's at clp@watermark.org, clp@watermark.org. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.